Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. This is our first uh, overnight anchor on this boat, and we did a nominally 3-hour trip today. It took about 3.5 hours once we messed around with the anchoring part, but it was really just about three hours, which is good because tomorrow is supposed to be 6 hours and 42 minutes. And if we were off by many hours, it would be very difficult because there's no in-betweens for tomorrow. Like where we need to go is pretty much where we need to go. There's one possible halfway point where there might be an anchorage if you can make the channel, if the channel is not shoaled up. And there's no current data on that. I haven't heard anything from the Coast Guard yet. So we're out here. It's pretty cool. The boat is a mess. Total freaking mess. But we got out. We got off the dock around noon, which is not 8 a.m. But, you know, that's how it goes. We did sail a little bit. We had some wind on about half the trip that actually worked in our favor for a steadying sail, but not really driving us. It just wasn't a whole lot of that. We're anchored so far. The anchor alarms that we're trying out look like they're working. We don't. I have no experience with the anchor alarms actually not working, so who knows? What else is there? It's just, it's a mess. All of this would have been the equivalent of about a 20-minute drive on one of the cars, like just because of the headlands we had to pass and everything, everywhere we had to go around. So that's kind of amusing, but again, it's not about the distance traveled or a comparison to a car. We're doing this to do this, and there's all that boat stuff going on. And it's not, what do I get out of this first day? What do I get? I'm not comfortable with the sense of freedom yet, because I'm not as confident with the boat, the rig, the backup plans, the way to fix whatever is going to break next. I'm not as comfortable with all of that as I am with a car or a van. If we were in a road trek, little 19-foot van RV, I would be very comfortable with any breakdowns or anything. And if it just went totally to crap and we had to walk away, I would be willing to just go hike, put everything in backpacks and go hike off. I don't have that option here. And it's a very different and very strange feeling for me. It's not the same. I don't want to use the word vibe, but it's not the same vibe. It's not the same set of characteristics. It's not the same kind of stuff. Like the freedom is there, but the freedom is not something that my body and my brain know. I don't have a set of reactions for this yet. I don't have a set of behaviors. I don't have a set of hormone responses. Like, I just don't, none of that's there. The, the sense, well, there's a lot of new stuff stressed to this. And I'm probably going to have to sit and give myself that whole, 5 to 50 minutes, whatever it is, to stare at the clouds and call it meditation if you want. It's unprovoked happiness is what it is, but it's a meditation technique, I guess. And, remember myself, and then I'll remember the universe and everything will be fine for that. But the body itself, the mind, the brain, the whole body ecology is going to take a little while to get used to this. It's a confidence boost to get the first 3 hours and get anchored. even if we drag and the anchor alarm goes off at night, we know that we're in a fairly safe spot. We're on a fairly small boat. We're not going to like ram into something and have major issues. You know, if the anchor drags and we hit like a piling or something, it's just, we're a small boat. It's not gonna, it actually doesn't matter as much because you kind of bounce off. Whereas a 50-foot boat, you might just keep going until something breaks. The post, your hull, whatever. So you end up with more potential for damage. That's about that. That's it for that. I have a lot of projects to do, and we're going to do projects while we are sailing, cruising, motoring, whatever we're doing, but that's probably going to be a few days because based on what we did today, it was a lot of figuring stuff out and not getting any of the work done. So, you know, we need to be able to work at anchor. This is not supposed to be a place where we anchor for 3 or 4 days, so we're probably not doing any projects here. You know, you can knock on wood for me if you want. But also, at the same time, there's always the weather. And if the weather changes big time, as we look at the clouds over there, if the weather changes big time, then we might be here for a couple of days. That's just how it goes. We'll see, you know. I'm going to have to get off of this and go look at the weather soon because I don't know what tomorrow holds yet. I've been so focused on today. And this is really the big thing. This is the big thing that I notice right now. If I'm in a car, if I'm in that road track and I want to go to Washington, D.C., a couple hours drive from here, I can just go. And before COVID, I would have been able to just go park at one of the metro stations, go do metro stuff, go do DC stuff, come back out, go park in a neighborhood or a grocery store parking lot or whatever, Walmart. Everything was 24 hours then. It wouldn't have made a difference. Since COVID, because some of the reaction to COVID was van life stuff, and because some of the reaction to COVID was people losing their homes and so on and so forth. Since COVID, that's not possible anymore, but you can still do it. You can sneak, you can sneak around and do it. You can find a way. And if the vehicle, like if it was a road track, they tend to look nice. So it's not hard to kind of sneak into a neighborhood and just be like, boop, just, park, turn the lights off, go to sleep. Can't do that on a boat. Like we can pick an anchorage, but this boat in particular, this is a sailboat with a little outboard. It's a small sailboat. We're not going to do more than 5 miles an hour. Choosing a different place, like changing what you're doing, is a really different kind of concept. You have to worry about the weather, but you also have to worry about time and distance, and it's just not the same. And at least in the area we are, you also have to worry about supplies and shore access and gas and all sorts of stuff that we don't necessarily have access to. Right here, we are, I guess, if they were open and I was willing to call them and everything, there are 2 marinas that we could row to in the dinghy, and it would only take like 45 minutes each way. If I really needed to get something, but there's no stores, there's no gas, there's no nothing. It's a very different kind of situation to be in a vehicle. For the moment, let's consider the boat as a vehicle. It's a very different thing. You don't have a gas station, you don't have a parking lot, you don't have anything. We have an anchorage, and it should be a good anchorage for the weather that we have. And we could, if we needed to, if there was a storm or something, it looks like we could, you'll have to excuse the sun glare, trying to avoid that, get down there. we could pull further back into the anchorage and ride out a storm pretty well. You know, this is the mouth of the little creek, river, whatever they want to call it. I think this one they did technically call it creek that we're in. This is off the Potomac. At the very south end of the Potomac, where it empties out into Chesapeake Bay proper. The next stage of the journey is to get to the Rappahannock River, and for us that's going to be 7 hours to get to the stuff that's around there. It's actually, we're talking about more like Reedville or Ingram Bay, not quite the Rappahannock. Just a very slow ride. Now, if we were in a powerboat, it would be different. Even if we were in a slower powerboat, we'd probably be doing 8 to 15 knots. And that makes a huge difference in, kind of like the difference between the dude and the horse. It makes a huge difference in travel, makes a huge difference in speed. We would have been in Ingram Bay today if we were on a smaller powerboat with a very similar engine. You know, I'm not going to say that we would run a 10 horsepower, but probably something around a 30 or 40 horsepower motor on a smaller motorboat, powerboat. We could do more speed, get there faster, and it would have been just fine. The ride would not be as comfortable. Sailboats do ride a little bit nicer. We had to sail up for a little over half the day, and that steadies the ride out so much. Like, it just, you don't even, the motion just settles down, right down. So that's, you know, that it's a part of it. It's a part of the things that to consider. And maybe, you know, maybe if I bump a slightly larger engine on this, outboard on this, we can do 6 knots. That's technically the whole speed. The calculations are a little weird, so maybe not. But, you know, those are things to think about. I'm not opposed to power boats. I'm just, you know, there's a lot of expense that goes with them. If I wanted to be independent of the gas stations, of course, I would have to get rid of that whole idea of the gasoline engine. And there's a whole nother can of worms. So, stuff to think about. Stuff that changes your perceptions and your experience. This is not like parking in a parking lot at all. And it's a very different feeling. I am, of course, I'm parked out here, anchored, and I'm in full view of a dozen houses, and some guy camped out in an RV on his land, and you know, some of these houses are going to be pretty expensive. So I'm kind of like in your backyard in a neighborhood where, for the area, we're talking about $500,000-$600,000 houses, and that for this area, that's kind of expensive. You know, we're talking about big deal. People with docks. So, stuff to think about. It's just different. And I don't have a handle on it yet. We'll see how that goes. Stay sideways. Talk to you soon.